I discovered in my garage a Hornby J83 which had been purchased for our younger son over 25 years ago. It's very much a cheap toy-like loco, and I don't normally model the LNER, but the apple green livery looked nice and it's a change from my normal British Railways colours, so obviously I just had to try and improve it. The body and chassis have many faults, so I'm not going to end up with anything like a scale model, but this is only going to be a quick project anyway. Once the body was separated from the chassis, lamp irons were glued to the footplate and to the top of the smoke box. The smoke box, chimney, cab roof, footplate and bunker seem to be all painted in a shiny black finish, so the first task is to give them a quick airbrush with Humbrol matte black. To avoid any overspray onto the green parts, most of the body was masked off, using a mixture of masking tape on the easy bits and masking fluid on the more difficult parts. Once the airbrushing was completed, a happy hour or so was spent in removing the masking tape, easy, and the masking fluid, tedious, but it was worth it, and the various matte black parts look much better already. None of the J83 class was preserved, so my loco is going to represent a new build, as might be found on a 21st century heritage line. The effect I'm after is that of a loco which has been well used and has attracted some dirt and grime, but has been well treated and cleaned regularly. Prototype photos show that the dirtiest areas, even on clean locos, were the top of the boiler and dome, the tops of the side tanks, and especially the footplate. These areas were first dry brushed and then lightly airbrushed with my favourite grime mix. The smoke box and chimney were also given a light airbrushing. Once everything was properly dry, the boiler and all the other green surfaces were carefully buffed up using cotton buds. The rubbing should be done using vertical strokes and continued until the required shininess is obtained. I had thought about varnishing the body, but I think this method gives a nice subtle effect and contrasts nicely with the matte areas. And so to the chassis, which as bought is more or less pure black in colour. I wanted it to look a little work stained, so it was given a quick coat of my usual underframe mix. The coupling rods were too shiny and were also painted at the same time. The bright shiny wheel rims, not the treads, were given a couple of coats of green to match the balance weights and spokes, and then dirted slightly by a combination of brushing and dry brushing. Once the wheels were completely dry, they were lightly polished with a cotton bud to give a slight shine. The coupling rods were given a quick coat of Humbrol satin coat to give them a slight shine, but this doesn't show up too well in the video. My scrap box yielded a couple of figures who looked as though they might make appropriate loco crew. They were enthusiastic and eagerly volunteered to spend the rest of their lives on the footplate. But they might have been rather more reluctant if they had realised the major surgery that was going to be required before they could fit into the cab. As I mentioned earlier, this loco is never going to be a scale model, and as the project is just a quickie, I used the Hornby vacuum pipes and fixed them into the holes on the buffer beams. The buffer beams and vacuum pipes were lightly weathered, and a Springside model's lamp glued onto the footplate. The final touch was to add real coal to the bunker. And there we have it. A few simple enhancements to make a basic loco look, well, just a little less toy-like. As usual, some pictures of the loco on the layout. And some shots of it in action. All it needs now are some LNER goods wagons to haul. Oh, and some teak coaches for it to pull. But until then, that's all for now. See you next time.